Our top story tonight, Tropical Storm Dennis. There's still concern it may be coming back to our area. Meteorologist Mark Avery begins our coverage with a look at where Dennis is tonight. Mark.
Well, Dennis is still hanging out around the Outer Banks and bringing us a few clouds out there. Step outside and you'll see those clouds from the outer edges of Dennis moving into the air, and you can see them on the satellite. Dennis is still basically not going very much of anywhere right now. Here's the latest coordinates as of 5 o'clock, and if you miss them now, I'll give them to you later. 34.7 north, 74 west. We'll talk more about where he's going coming up in a few minutes, Murph.
Mark, or icon.
Yeah.
It's not really a button.
Yeah, it's a little...
Thingy.
It's a link. It's a link is what it is.
It's a thingy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that nuisance out in the Atlantic.
Dennis is starting to stink. We already got that. What's he doing next? We'll check that out coming up next. Well, everything we have to talk about has to deal with Dennis. Dennis, not much as far as movement today, still sitting pretty much in place off of Cape Hatteras, although he is drifting slightly towards the west, which is actually sort of good news because that gets him farther away from the Gulf Stream and closer to land. And that means two things. One, if he stays away from the Gulf Stream, he doesn't tap warm water. And two, if he stays close to land, he interacts with land, and that doesn't give him any extra heat energy to help fire up. So that's a double bonus as far as strengthening and keeping him from re-strengthening back to a hurricane or a stronger tropical storm. But overnight tonight, we'll have a few clouds from the outer edges of Dennis and temperatures in the 70s with the north to northwest wind about 15 to 25 miles per hour. Skywatch Neighborhood Network from Altel takes us downtown. It's 80 degrees there. North wind there, but it's been pretty windy out there. Peak wind gust at 32 this afternoon. Blockade runner not checking in. In the backyard, we had a peak wind this afternoon of 30, and it's 80 degrees right now. Let's check a sky watcher. We go to the Fayetteville area. The Lopez is 85 for them and no rainfall today. Officially, a couple degrees below normal on the high and low side, 85 and 67, and no records to be had today. Here's the latest coordinates on Dennis as of 5 o'clock. He's located at 34.7 north, 74.0 west. It's 95 miles east-southeast of Cape Hatteras, drifting southwest very slowly, about 3 miles per hour. Maximum sustained wind still at 60 miles per hour. Barometric pressure is pretty high, too, for this tropical system. Now, one thing, the next best thing that will come along to kick Dennis's tail out of here is this trough of low pressure in the upper atmosphere parked over the west coast. It's still a good 5 or 6 days away from getting here, which is bad news for the weekend ahead. So we're looking at cloud cover and wind, gusty winds, and maybe a little bit stronger than what we got right now in the meantime as this trough continues to head out west. Meanwhile, out here on the east coast, the steering currents are very weak, so Dennis is without a clue as to where to go. Because there's nothing to steer him in a direction to go, kind of sit behind the wheel, the steering wheel isn't working for Dennis right now. He doesn't know where to go. He's lost. And because of the weak steering current. So one thing that is in place is high pressure at the upper parts of the atmosphere, and on the south side of highs you have winds that come out of the east and go to the west. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at a westward wobble or westward drift of Dennis over the next few days. And here's the forecast for where Dennis is going. 2 o'clock on Saturday, being offshore straight south of Cape Lookout, and then sometime Saturday night, Sunday morning, looks like it's going to come ashore somewhere around Jacksonville. Now, what this means is some tropical storm force winds in the Pender beaches and the Onslow County beaches and northward to Carteret County, and maybe towards Wilmington and Southport, Brunswick, and New Hanover County. We're looking at winds 20, 30 miles per hour with higher gusts than that. I will say this, the models are very divergent as to where Dennis is going or not, and the longer he stays in one place, well, the more he sits there and spins, and the less the models have. So we'll keep an eye on it just in case he does do anything. Clouds on the increase tonight, 68 on the low side tonight, north to northwest winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tomorrow, clouds and a few peaks of sun, 85 on the high side, north to northwest winds 15 to 20 miles per hour. Small craft advisor up, road currents possible along the coast, northwest to north winds tonight 15 to 25 knots. Next tide is low at 7:30, high tide at 1:45, sun sets at 7:37, and comes up tomorrow at 6:46. Here's your 6-day forecast. As long as Dennis hangs out, it's going to stay windy. We're going to keep some clouds in the around. We'll see a few light showers, and I think if Dennis does come back around, it's going to be much more of a wind issue and a cloud issue. I'm still cautiously optimistic that the rains will be certainly a lot less than we had this weekend.
All right. Now, well, I like to be optimistic, too.
Cautiously optimistic.
All
How's
right.
that?
Thanks, Mark.